The red dust of Mars swirled around the excavation site as Commander Jack Morrison wiped his helmet visor for the third time that hour. He had been on Mars for 6 months now, leading a team of archaeologists and scientists who were searching for evidence of ancient water systems. So far, they had found nothing but rocks and more rocks. Jack was starting to think this entire mission was a waste of time and resources. "Commander, you need to see this," a voice crackled through his helmet radio. It was Dr. Kate Sullivan, the head scientist of the expedition. She sounded excited, which was unusual for Kate. She was normally calm and professional, even when they made interesting discoveries. Jack walked across the rocky terrain toward the deep pit where Kate and her team had been digging. The Valles Marineris Canyon stretched out behind them, a massive scar on the face of Mars that made Earth's Grand Canyon look like a small ditch. The excavation site was at the bottom of a smaller canyon that branched off from the main valley. When Jack reached the edge of the pit, he looked down and froze. The team had uncovered something that definitely was not a rock. A smooth, crystalline surface reflected the dim Martian sunlight, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the canyon walls. The crystal was huge, at least 50 meters across from what Jack could see, and it disappeared deeper into the ground. "What is that?" Jack asked as he climbed down the ladder into the pit. Kate was kneeling beside the crystal, running her gloved hand across its surface. "I have no idea," she said, "but it's definitely not natural. Look at these patterns." She pointed to geometric designs etched into the crystal's surface. "These are too precise, too organized to be random. Someone made this." "Someone?" Jack asked. "Who?" "There's no life on Mars. There never has been." Kate looked up at him, her eyes visible through her helmet visor. "Then we need to rethink everything we know about this planet's history." Over the next 3 days, the team worked carefully to expose more of the crystal structure. It was enormous, extending at least 200 meters into the Martian soil. The geometric patterns covered every surface, and when they took samples for analysis, the crystal seemed to repair itself, growing new material to replace what had been removed. Jack reported the discovery to Earth, and within hours, he received orders to classify everything at the highest security level. No public announcements, no scientific papers. The military was taking over the operation. Lieutenant Ben Carter was the first military officer to arrive from Earth. He came on a fast transport ship, making the journey in just 4 weeks instead of the usual 6 months. Ben was young, maybe 28, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He inspected the entire site within an hour of landing. "Have you tried to access it?" Ben asked Jack as they stood beside the crystal. "Access what?" Jack replied. "It's just a structure. We don't even know what it's for." Ben pulled out a small device from his equipment belt. "Command thinks it might be some kind of data storage or communication device. They want us to try interfacing with it." Kate objected immediately. "We don't know what this thing does. If we start poking at it with our technology, we might damage it or trigger something dangerous." "Those are our orders," Ben said firmly. He attached the device to the crystal's surface and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire crystal began to glow with a soft blue light. The geometric patterns started to move, flowing across the surface like liquid. Everyone stepped back, but there was nowhere to go. The light grew brighter and brighter until Jack had to close his eyes. When he opened them again, the crystal had changed. It was now transparent, and inside he could see shapes moving, holographic images projected out from the crystal, filling the entire excavation pit with 3-dimensional star maps. Thousands of stars, planets, and strange symbols floated in the air around them. "What did you do?" Kate whispered, her voice full of awe. Ben was frantically typing on his device, trying to record everything. "I don't know. The interface protocol was supposed to be simple, just a basic handshake signal." The holographic display changed. The star maps disappeared, replaced by technical diagrams of ships. Not small ships, but massive vessels that looked like they could carry entire cities. Weapon systems, engine designs, power cores that Jack couldn't even begin to understand. The information was overwhelming. Then the crystal sent out a pulse. Jack felt it pass through his body. A wave of energy that made his skin tingle and his head feel light. The pulse traveled out from the crystal, spreading across Mars, then beyond. He somehow knew it had reached Earth, the Moon, and was continuing out into the solar system. "We need to shut it down," Kate said, her voice urgent now. "We don't know what that pulse did." But the crystal was already going dormant. The holographic displays faded, and the blue light dimmed until the crystal looked just like it had before. a smooth, reflective surface covered in geometric patterns. Jack tried to contact Earth, but there was too much interference. The pulse had disrupted communications across the entire planet. It took 6 hours before they could establish a connection again, and when they did, the news was disturbing. The pulse had been detected everywhere. Every monitoring station in the solar system had recorded it. More than that, people were reporting strange effects, vivid dreams, headaches. Some claimed they could see images in their minds, visions of ancient battles and unknown places. On Earth, a civilian engineer named Ryan Hayes sat up in bed, his heart pounding. He had just experienced the most intense dream of his life. He had been standing on the bridge of a massive starship, watching as thousands of alien vessels attacked from all directions. He had felt the fear, the determination, the weight of command as if he had actually been there. Ryan got out of bed and walked to his window, looking out at the city lights of Seattle. He was just an engineer who designed water filtration systems. He had never been in the military, never even left Earth. But that dream had felt so real, and somehow he knew it would happen again. Across the planet, Commander Lisa Grant woke up in her quarters aboard the naval destroyer stationed near the orbital defense platform. She had the same dream as Ryan, but from a different perspective. In her dream, she had been commanding a smaller ship, fighting alongside the massive vessel that Ryan had seen. The details were already fading, but the feeling remained. A sense of purpose, a call to something greater. Back on Mars, Jack and his team continued to study the crystal, but it refused to activate again. Whatever the pulse had done, it was finished. Kate ran analysis after analysis, but the crystal's composition was unlike anything in Earth's databases. It wasn't made of any known element. The molecular structure seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, which should have been impossible. This wasn't made by humans, Kate said to Jack one evening as they reviewed the data. This is alien technology, and it's been here for a very long time. The geological layers around it suggest it was buried millions of years ago, maybe even longer. Jack nodded slowly. The question is why? Why bury something like this on Mars? And why did it activate now? Kate pulled up an image on her tablet, showing the star maps that the crystal had displayed. I've been analyzing these star charts. Some of these star positions match current locations, but others are off. Way off. As if these maps were made millions of years ago and the stars have moved since then. So whatever made this, they were here before humans even existed, Jack said. Before humans. Before dinosaurs. Maybe before complex life on Earth at all, Kate confirmed. And they left this here for a reason. Ben joined them, carrying his own tablet. I've been collecting reports from Earth. Over 5,000 people experienced the same dreams after the pulse. All of them described the same battle, but from different perspectives. It's like the crystal downloaded memories into their heads. But why them? Jack asked. Why those specific people? That's what Command wants to know, Ben said. They're bringing all of them in for testing. Medical scans, psychological evaluations, the works. Whatever this crystal did to them, the military wants to understand it. Over the following weeks, more discoveries were made. When they dug deeper around the crystal, they found what appeared to be access tunnels leading to underground chambers. The tunnels were perfectly preserved, as if they had been built yesterday instead of millions of years ago. Inside the chambers, they found more crystals, smaller ones arranged in patterns that reminded Jack of computer servers. Kate managed to activate one of the smaller crystals using the same interface protocol that Ben had used on the main structure. This time they were ready. The holographic display showed a single image, a humanoid figure, tall and slender, with large eyes and skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Text appeared beneath the image, written in symbols that none of them could read. But as Jack stared at the symbols, they began to change. The alien writing transformed into English, as if the crystal was adapting to their language. We are the predecessors. The text read, If you are reading this, then our plan has succeeded. You are the inheritors of our legacy, created to stand against the darkness that consumed us. The enemy approaches, prepare. The message ended there, but it raised more questions than it answered. Who were the predecessors? What was this darkness they mentioned? Ryan Hayes stood in the government facility in Colorado, feeling completely out of place. Around him were military officers, scientists, and other people who looked important. He was just a water filtration engineer from Seattle. He designed systems that cleaned drinking water. Nothing in his life had prepared him for this. "Mr. Hayes, please step forward," a woman in a lab coat called out. Her name tag read Dr. Phillips. Ryan walked into the examination room where several machines surrounded a chair that looked like it belonged in a dentist's office. They had been testing him for 3 days now. Brain scans, blood tests, psychological evaluations. The same questions over and over. "Tell us about the dreams. What did you see? What did you feel?" "We're going to show you some images," Dr. Phillips explained as she attached sensors to his head. "Tell us if any of them look familiar." The screen in front of him lit up, showing various technical diagrams. Ship designs, engine schematics, weapon systems. Ryan had seen some of these in his dreams, but they were clearer now, more detailed. As he looked at one particular engine design, something strange happened. He understood it. Not just the basic concept, but the actual engineering behind it. How the power flowed, how the containment fields worked, how to build it. "That one," Ryan said, pointing. "It's a quantum displacement drive. It creates a bubble in space-time that allows the ship to move faster than light without actually accelerating. The power requirements are massive, but if you use a controlled matter-antimatter reaction in a magnetic bottle..." He trailed off, realizing what he had just said. He shouldn't know any of this. He didn't have a physics degree. He worked with water pipes. Dr. Phillips was typing furiously on her tablet. "Fascinating. You're the third person to describe that exact system. All of you understand it instinctively, as if you've been working with this technology for years." "What's happening to me?" Ryan asked. "Why do I know these things?" "That's what we're trying to figure out," Dr. Phillips replied. "The crystal on Mars did something to you and the others. It downloaded information directly into your brains. We think it's some kind of genetic trigger, something built into human DNA that activated when you were exposed to the pulse." "That's impossible," Ryan said. "How could aliens put something in human DNA millions of years ago? Humans didn't even exist back then." Dr. Phillips smiled slightly. "That's the question everyone is asking. Come on, there's someone you need to meet." She led Ryan through the facility to a large conference room. Inside were about 30 other people all around his age. Some wore military uniforms, others were in civilian clothes. At the head of the table stood a man in a Navy dress uniform with captain's insignia on his shoulders. "I'm Captain Dan Foster," the man said. "Welcome to the most classified project in human history. You're all here because the crystal chose you. We don't know why, but we know you're special. Each of you has demonstrated an understanding of the alien technology that our best scientists can't explain. And we need you because what we're about to tell you will change everything." Captain Foster pressed a button, and a holographic display filled the center of the room. It showed the edge of the solar system far beyond Neptune. Small red dots were moving inward toward the inner planets. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected these objects, Foster continued. "They're not asteroids. They're not comets. They're ships. Thousands of them. And they're heading toward Earth." The room erupted in shocked voices. Ryan felt his stomach drop. The dreams. The battles. They weren't just memories. They were warnings. "Who are they?" someone asked. Ryan recognized her from the testing. Commander Lisa Grant, a naval officer who had been having the same dreams as him. "We don't know," Foster admitted, "but the artifact on Mars does." Dr. Sullivan's team managed to extract more information from the crystals. What they found is disturbing. The holographic display changed, showing the same tall, slender aliens that Jack Morrison had seen in the message. These are the predecessors. According to the data, they existed millions of years ago. They were explorers, scientists, peaceful by nature, until they encountered something that changed everything. The image shifted again, showing creatures that made Ryan's skin crawl. They looked like a nightmare combination of machines and organic matter. Dark writhing masses with glowing red cores, ships that seemed to be alive, pulsing with energy. "The Void Swarm," Foster said quietly. "That's what the predecessors called them. A collective consciousness that consumes intelligent life. They move from star system to star system, absorbing entire civilizations. The predecessors fought them for thousands of years and lost. But before they were destroyed, they created something. A weapon. Us. What?" Lisa Grant stood up. "You're saying we're weapons?" "Not weapons exactly," Dr. Phillips said, stepping forward. "According to the data, the predecessors seeded Earth with modified genetic material. They designed humans to have specific traits: aggression, creativity, adaptability. Most importantly, our minds work differently from theirs. The Void Swarm uses telepathy to control and absorb their victims. But human minds are resistant. Our thoughts are too chaotic, too individual. The swarm can't easily process us. So they made us to fight this thing? Ryan asked. Why? Why not just build better weapons? They tried, Captain Foster said. The predecessors built massive fleets, superweapons, everything they could think of. Nothing worked. The swarm adapted to everything they threw at it.
So they tried something different.
They created a species that could think in ways the swarm couldn't predict. They planted the seeds of humanity and left instructions for us. That crystal on Mars is an instruction manual for a war we didn't even know we were born to fight. The room fell silent. Ryan tried to process what he was hearing. His entire species had been engineered by aliens millions of years ago to fight against some cosmic horror. It sounded like a bad science fiction movie, except it was real. The proof was heading toward Earth right now. The predecessors left more than just information, Foster continued. They left hardware. We found hidden facilities all over the solar system. On the moon, on Europa, in the asteroid belt. All of them containing construction equipment and blueprints for ships. The same ships you've been seeing in your dreams. How long do we have? Lisa Grant asked. At their current speed, the Void Swarm will reach Earth in 6 months, Foster replied. Which means we have 6 months to build a fleet and learn how to use it. The facilities are already active. The crystal's pulse triggered them. They're waiting for commands, but they'll only respond to people like you. People the crystal chose. Ryan shook his head. I'm not a soldier. I'm not even a pilot. I don't know how to command a warship. You will, Foster said firmly. The information is already in your head. The crystal downloaded thousands of years of predecessor military knowledge into your minds. You just need to access it. Our psychologists are working on techniques to help you retrieve those memories. Over the next few weeks, Ryan learned that Foster was right. When he focused, he could pull up information that he shouldn't know. Battle tactics, fleet formations, weapon ranges. It was all there, buried in his subconscious, waiting to be used. The other chosen people reported the same thing. They were changing, becoming something more than they had been. The military mobilized like never before. Resources from every nation were pooled into a single effort. Build the fleet. Train the commanders. Prepare for the war that was coming. Ryan was taken to the moon, to one of the predecessor facilities that had been hidden beneath the lunar surface for millions of years. The construction bay was enormous, easily 5 kilometers across, and in the center, taking shape piece by piece, was a ship that defied description. We're calling her the Thunderbreaker, said Admiral Nicole Chen, who had taken charge of the overall project. She's the flagship, the largest and most powerful vessel in the fleet. And according to the protocols, you're her commander. Me? Ryan stared at the Admiral. I told you I'm not qualified. The ship disagrees, Admiral Chen said. We tried to interface with her systems using our best pilots and commanders. She refused to activate. Then we brought you in and she responded immediately. The predecessors designed these ships to bond with specific human neural patterns. Your pattern matches the Thunderbreaker. Like it or not, Mr. Hayes, you're a fleet commander now. Ryan looked up at the massive ship being built before his eyes. Automated systems and construction drones worked around the clock, assembling components that had been fabricated by the facility's manufacturing plants. Weapons that could tear apart asteroids, shields that could withstand the heat of a star, engines that could cross the solar system in days instead of months. Lisa Grant was assigned to another ship, the Stormbreaker. Several other chosen people received their own vessels. Each one bonded to their ship, learning its systems, practicing with simulations. They were learning to be what the predecessors had designed them to be. But not everyone was happy with this arrangement. Major Sophie Bennett, a decorated military officer with 20 years of experience, openly protested the decision to put civilians in command of the most powerful weapons humanity had ever created. This is insane, Sophie argued during a command meeting. These people. The Thunderbreaker floated in space above Earth, and Ryan Hayes felt like he was dreaming again. Except this time, he was awake. The bridge around him was massive, easily the size of a football field, with holographic displays showing every angle of space around them. The ship's Sentinel protocol whispered information directly into his mind, data flowing faster than any computer screen could display. Running final systems check, Major Sophie Bennett said from the tactical station. She had been assigned to Ryan's ship as his second in command, and she made no effort to hide her displeasure. Her fingers moved across the holographic controls with practiced ease. She knew what she was doing. Ryan was still learning. All weapons online, Sophie continued. Shield generators at full power. The antimatter containment is stable. We're ready for combat trials. Good, Ryan said, trying to sound confident. Take us to the designated testing zone. The Thunderbreaker moved through space with surprising grace for something so large. She was nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that Ryan was still learning to understand. Pulse cannons that fired concentrated energy, missile bays loaded with warheads that could crack a moon, and the main weapon, something the Sentinel protocol called a graviton lance, which could bend space itself. Around them, the rest of the Thunderbreaker fleet took up formation. 11 ships total, each one commanded by someone who had experienced the pulse from the predecessor crystal. Lisa Grant's Stormbreaker flew off their port side, smaller than the Thunderbreaker but faster and more maneuverable. The other ships spread out in a defensive formation, just like the predecessor battle tactics that Ryan somehow knew. This is Admiral Chen, a voice came through the communication system. All ships, you are cleared to begin combat drills. We've set up target drones in the asteroid belt. Your objective is to destroy them while maintaining formation. Remember, this is practice. The real enemy will be here in 5 months. 5 months, that was all the time they had left. The Void Swarm was getting closer every day. Deep space sensors tracked their progress as they moved through the outer solar system, consuming everything in their path. Small outposts that humanity had built beyond Neptune were already gone, absorbed by the swarm without even slowing down. Target drones detected, Sophie said. Marking them now. Holographic indicators appeared on Ryan's display, highlighting dozens of small objects moving through the asteroid field. They were automated combat drones programmed to fight back and simulate enemy behavior. Not nearly as dangerous as the real thing, but good enough for training. All ships weapons free, Ryan commanded. Let's show them what we can do. The Thunderbreaker fleet opened fire, and the asteroid belt lit up with weapons discharge. Pulse cannons traced lines of energy through space, vaporizing drones and asteroids alike. Missiles streaked out, their propulsion systems creating brief trails before impact. The Stormbreaker darted between asteroids, Lisa Grant's piloting skills, putting the smaller ship through maneuvers that seemed impossible. Ryan focused on coordinating the fleet, directing ships to cover each other, calling out targets, trying to manage the chaos of combat. The Sentinel protocol helped, feeding him tactical information and suggestions, but the final decisions were his. And he was making mistakes. Thunderbreaker, you've got 3 drones on your 6, Sophie warned. They're lining up for a shot. Ryan tried to turn the massive ship, but she was too slow. The drones fired, simulated weapons that wouldn't actually damage the ship but registered as hits on the computer. Alarms blared. We're dead, Sophie said flatly. If those had been real weapons, they would have punched through our rear shields. Ryan gritted his teeth. Stormbreaker, can you handle those drones? Already on it, Lisa replied. Her ship swept in from above, destroying all 3 drones in quick succession. You need to keep your engines angled away from threats, Thunderbreaker. Big ship like yours can't afford to show your weak spots. Noted, Ryan said, embarrassed. Lisa had been a naval officer before the Pulse. She knew combat. He was still figuring out which buttons did what. The exercise continued for 3 hours. By the end of it, the fleet had destroyed all the target drones, but the computer simulations showed they had taken heavy losses. In a real battle, 6 of the 11 ships would have been destroyed or crippled. Unacceptable, Admiral Chen said after they returned to Earth orbit. The Void Swarm won't be as forgiving as those drones. You need to work together better, trust each other. And Commander Hayes, you need to stop thinking like an engineer and start thinking like a warrior. Ryan wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He was approaching combat like it was a technical problem to solve. But war wasn't about finding the perfect solution. It was about making quick decisions under pressure, using instinct and experience. Things he didn't have. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He floated in his quarters aboard the Thunderbreaker, staring out the window at Earth below. Somewhere down there was his old life. His apartment, his job, his friends who still had no idea what was coming. The government had kept the Void Swarm threat classified, not wanting to cause panic. Only military personnel and those directly involved in the fleet project knew the truth. "You're thinking too much," a voice said. Ryan turned to see the Sentinel. Protocol had manifested a holographic avatar on his wall screen. It looked like one of the predecessors, tall and slender with those large eyes. The AI had a strange way of appearing when Ryan was alone, like it wanted to talk. "I'm not cut out for this," Ryan admitted. "Today proved it. People are going to die because I don't know what I'm doing. The predecessors chose humans precisely because you don't think like them," the Sentinel Protocol replied. "They were logical, methodical. They fought the swarm using calculations and strategic planning. And they lost. Human minds work differently. You make decisions based on intuition, emotion, creativity. That unpredictability is your strength. Tell that to the ships I got killed in the simulation," Ryan said bitterly. "You're learning," the Sentinel Protocol insisted. "Every battle teaches you something. The predecessors studied human history. Your species has overcome impossible odds before, not through superior technology or perfect tactics, but through determination and the refusal to give up. That's what the swarm cannot understand. That's what will let you win." Ryan wanted to believe that, but doubt gnawed at him. The swarm had destroyed civilizations that were millions of years more advanced than humans. What chance did they have? Over the following weeks, the fleet continued training. Ryan and the other commanders practiced in simulators, ran combat drills, studied every bit of information they could extract from the predecessor databases. Slowly, they improved. Ryan started to trust his instincts more, making decisions without overthinking them. The fleet began to function as a unit, each ship knowing its role. But tensions were building. Major Sophie Bennett wasn't the only military officer who resented the civilian commanders. There were protests, arguments in high-level meetings about whether this was the right approach. Some wanted to take control of the ships by force, arguing that humanity couldn't afford to gamble on untrained people. "They don't understand," Lisa said to Ryan during a break between exercises. "The ships won't work for them. We've tried. The neural interface only responds to us." "Maybe we could teach them," Ryan suggested. "Find a way to transfer the knowledge." Lisa shook her head. "The predecessors built these ships for us specifically. Our genetic markers, our neural patterns, it's like a lock and key. We're the only keys that fit." Meanwhile, Dr. Kate Sullivan made another discovery on Mars. Deep within the crystal structure, she found what appeared to be a historical record. The predecessors had documented their war with the Void Swarm, every battle, every defeat. And in those records, she found something that changed everything. "The swarm isn't just a collective consciousness," Kate explained during a briefing with Admiral Chen and the fleet commanders. "It's more like a virus. It infects intelligent beings, absorbs their knowledge and memories, then uses them to build more of itself. Every civilization it consumes makes it smarter, more dangerous. By the time it reached the predecessors, it had absorbed thousands of species. It knew how they would fight before they even made a decision." "So how do we beat something that knows how everyone thinks?" Sophie asked. "We don't fight like everyone else," Ryan said slowly, an idea forming. "The swarm has never fought humans before. It doesn't know our history, our tactics, our way of thinking. We need to use strategies that wouldn't make sense to them. Tactics that would seem illogical or even stupid from their perspective." Admiral Chen nodded. "That aligns with what the Sentinel protocols have been suggesting. Human military history is full of victories that came from unexpected tactics. Ambushes, feints, sacrificing pieces to win the larger game. The swarm is used to fighting orderly battles. We need to make this messy." New training programs were developed based on this idea. Instead of following predecessor battle plans, they studied human military history, ancient warfare, modern conflicts, even theoretical scenarios from war games. The fleet commanders learned to think like guerrilla fighters, not like the precise, calculated predecessors. Ryan found that this style suited him better. He didn't have to be perfect. The void swarm emerged from the darkness beyond Neptune like a nightmare made real. Ryan Hayes watched on the Thunderbreaker's displays as thousands of contacts appeared on the sensors. The ships were unlike anything he had imagined. They looked organic, like massive creatures swimming through space instead of machines. Their hulls pulsed with red light, and even through the cold vacuum of space, Ryan could feel something wrong about them, something unnatural. "My God," Sophie Bennett whispered beside him. "There are so many." She was right. Intelligence estimates had predicted maybe 1,000 ships, but there were at least 5,000 contacts on the screen now, maybe more. The outer edge of the swarm was still beyond sensor range. This was going to be much worse than anyone had planned. "All ships, battle stations," Ryan commanded, his voice cutting through the shocked silence on the bridge. "Formation Delta 7. We're going out to meet them." The Thunderbreaker fleet moved away from Earth, accelerating toward the outer solar system. 11 ships against thousands. The odds were impossible, but they had no choice. If they let the swarm reach the inner planets, billions would die. Fleet Command estimates engagement in 6 hours. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. "All civilian craft have been evacuated from the battle zone. Earth's orbital defense platforms are online, but we're not expecting them to be much help. This is your fight, Thunderbreaker fleet, make it count." Ryan could feel the tension on his bridge. His crew, a mix of military personnel and civilians who had been chosen by the Crystal, were preparing for a battle they might not survive. He wanted to say something inspiring, something that would give them courage, but the words wouldn't come. He was terrified, and he suspected everyone else was too. "Commander Hayes," the Sentinel protocol spoke in his mind. "Remember your training. Trust your instincts. The predecessors designed these ships for humans. Let the ship work with you, not for you." Ryan nodded, even though the AI couldn't see him. He closed his eyes and felt the connection to the Thunderbreaker deepen. The ship's systems became an extension of his own thoughts. He could sense the other ships in the fleet too, their commanders' minds touching his through the neural network. Lisa Grant was calm and focused. Amy Rodriguez was excited, ready for action. Lieutenant Matt Jensen aboard the Skybreaker was nervous but determined. They flew in formation through the asteroid belt, past Mars, into the deep cold of the outer solar system. The swarm was moving toward them now, their advance ships breaking away from the main mass. Hunter-killer formations, Ryan realized. Small groups designed to test their defenses and draw them out. "Here they come," Sophie said. 200 contacts closing fast. "All ships, weapons free," Ryan ordered. "Let's see what these things can do." The first wave of void swarm ships hit them like a tidal wave. They were fast, darting through space with impossible agility. Their weapons fired beams of dark energy that seemed to suck the light out of space wherever they touched. The Thunderbreaker's shields absorbed the first hits, but Ryan could feel the strain on the systems. "Return fire," he commanded. The fleet's weapons lit up the darkness. Pulse cannons traced lines of destruction through the enemy formation. Missiles streaked out, tracking targets with ruthless efficiency. Ryan watched as dozens of swarm ships exploded, their organic hulls unable to withstand the concentrated fire. But more kept coming. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. And the swarm was learning fast. Their formation patterns changed, becoming more erratic, harder to predict. They were adapting to the fleet's tactics in real time. "Skybreaker is taking heavy damage," Lisa's voice called out. "Matt, get out of there." But Lieutenant Matt Jensen was surrounded. 6 swarm ships had isolated him, cutting him off from the rest of the fleet. Ryan watched helplessly as the young commander tried to fight his way clear, his ship's weapons blazing. For a moment, it looked like he might make it. Then the swarm ships fired in unison, their dark energy beams converging on a single point. The Skybreaker's shields collapsed. The beams tore through the hull, ripping the ship apart from the inside out. Matt's last transmission was a scream that cut off abruptly as his ship exploded in a burst of light. "No!" Amy Rodriguez's voice cracked with emotion. "Matt!" "Stay focused," Ryan forced himself to say, even though his heart was hammering in his chest. Matt had been one of them, chosen by the Crystal, bonded to his ship. And now he was gone. "We can't help him now. Break formation, scatter pattern. Don't let them isolate anyone else." The fleet split apart, each ship taking a different vector. It went against every instinct the predecessors had programmed into them. Their battle tactics emphasized formation, mutual support, coordinated fire. But Ryan remembered what they had learned about human warfare. Sometimes you had to break the rules to survive. The swarm hesitated, confused by the sudden change in tactics. Their hunter-killer formations were designed to isolate and overwhelm single targets in an organized battle. But now the fight had turned chaotic. The fleet ships were everywhere, firing from unexpected angles, using asteroids for cover, employing hit-and-run tactics that the swarm hadn't anticipated. "It's working," Sophie said, her voice filled with surprised relief. "They don't know how to adapt to this, but Ryan knew they would learn eventually." The swarm always learned. They needed to press the advantage now while they still had it. "All ships target the command nodes," Ryan ordered, highlighting specific swarm vessels on the shared display, those big ones in the back. "If we cut off their coordination, the smaller ships will be confused." The fleet converged on the command ships, their weapons unleashing everything they had. The Thunderbreaker's graviton lance fired for the first time in combat, the weapon bending space itself to create a beam of pure destructive force. It punched through a command ship's defenses like they weren't even there, tearing the vessel in half. The effect was immediate. The swarm's coordinated assault fell apart. The smaller ships began attacking randomly, without the strategic direction from their command nodes. It was like watching a swarm of insects lose their queen. They were still dangerous, still numerous, but now they were disorganized. "Keep hitting them," Lisa called out. "Don't give them time to adapt." For 2 hours, the battle raged through the outer solar system. The Thunderbreaker fleet destroyed hundreds of swarm ships, using tactics that would have horrified the methodical predecessors. They ambushed from asteroid shadows. They feinted attacks and struck from different angles. They fought dirty, using every trick that human military history had to offer, and slowly, impossibly, they began to win. The swarm's advance wave was destroyed. The remaining ships retreated back toward the main force, regrouping. But the cost had been high. The Skybreaker was gone. The Windbreaker had taken severe damage and was barely functioning. 3 other ships were showing critical system failures. Out of 11 ships, only 6 were fully combat capable. "Fall back to Mars orbit," Admiral Chen ordered. "You need repairs and the swarm needs time to analyze what happened. Use this time to prepare. They'll come again, and next time they'll be ready for your tactics." The fleet limped back toward the inner solar system. Ryan felt exhausted, drained in a way he had never experienced before. The neural connection to his ship had taken a toll. His head ached and his hands were shaking. Around the bridge, his crew looked similarly worn. "You did well," Sophie said quietly. She had fought in several military actions before this, but Ryan could see the shock in her eyes. This had been different from anything she had experienced. Matt knew the risks. "We all do." Ryan nodded, but Matt's death weighed on him. He should have seen the trap. Should have ordered Matt to retreat sooner. Should have done something different. "Stop that." Lisa's voice came through his neural link, private between just the two of them. "You can't save everyone. Matt made his own choices. He died fighting to protect Earth. Honor that, don't diminish it with guilt." She was right, but knowing that didn't make it easier. Back on Mars, repair crews swarmed over the damaged ships. The predecessor construction facilities worked overtime, fabricating replacement parts and weapons. Dr. Kate Sullivan emerged from her studies of the crystal with new information. "The swarm is analyzing your tactics now," she explained during the debriefing. "They're learning. The next wave will be different. They'll adapt to your human strategies, make them less effective." "Then we need to change our strategies," Amy Rodriguez said. She had taken Matt's death hard, but her voice was firm. "Keep evolving faster than they can adapt." "There's something else," Kate continued. "I found references to those advanced weapons I mentioned before. The ones that require neural synchronization. The predecessors called them Unity protocols. If you can achieve full synchronization, linking all ships into a single consciousness, you could access weapons powerful enough to destroy the swarm's main force. But it's incredibly dangerous. The predecessors tried it once and failed. The neural feedback killed everyone involved." "We don't have a choice," Ryan said. "The swarm's main force is still out there. Thousands of ships. If we can't stop them, they'll overwhelm us through sheer numbers. We need those weapons." Admiral Chen looked troubled. "I can't order you to attempt something." Ryan Hayes was no longer just Ryan Hayes. He was Lisa Grant, feeling her tactical mind analyzing the battlefield from a different perspective. He was Amy Rodriguez, her pilot instincts guiding his hands. He was all 10 commanders at once, their thoughts flowing together like rivers joining into an ocean. The Unity protocol was active, and it was unlike anything he could have imagined. By all the stars, Sophie Bennett whispered on the Thunderbreaker's bridge. She was watching Ryan's vital signs spike on her monitor. His brain activity was off the charts. "Commander, are you all right?" Ryan heard her through 10 different sets of ears. He answered through 10 different mouths, all speaking in perfect synchronization. "We are operational. Beginning attack run." The Thunderbreaker fleet moved as one entity, 10 ships that functioned like parts of a single body. They didn't need to communicate tactics or coordinate movements anymore. They simply knew where each other would be, what each other would do. The Sentinel protocols hummed with power, channeling energy between the ships through the neural network. The void swarm came at them like a dark tide, thousands of ships spreading across space. Their adapted tactics were impressive. They had learned from the first battle, incorporating human unpredictability into their attack patterns. But they were still thinking like the swarm, a collective consciousness that processed everything together. The Unity protocol was different. It was 10 individual minds working as one while retaining their creativity and independence. It was the best of both worlds, something the predecessors had never achieved because their minds were too rigid, too similar to each other. "Engaging Unity weapons," Ryan said through all 10 commanders. The Thunderbreaker's main systems reconfigured, power flowing through connections that had been dormant since the predecessors built these ships millions of years ago. The other ships in the fleet did the same, their weapons synchronizing, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. A beam of pure white energy erupted from the Thunderbreaker, but it wasn't alone. 9 other beams joined it, converging at a single point in space. Where they met, reality itself seemed to crack. The combined weapon created a gravitational anomaly, a miniature black hole that lasted only a fraction of a second, but tore through the swarm's front lines like paper. Hundreds of swarm ships were pulled into the anomaly and crushed out of existence. The weapon's backwash destroyed hundreds more. In a single strike, they had eliminated nearly 1,000 enemy vessels, but the cost was immediate. Ryan felt the neural feedback through the Unity protocol, a wave of pain that made him want to scream. The other commanders felt it too. The weapon was tearing at their minds, burning through their neural pathways faster than the Sentinel protocols could compensate. "We can't sustain this," Lisa's voice said in their shared consciousness. "The weapon is too powerful. We do that 2 or 3 more times and it'll kill us all." "Then we make each shot count," Ryan replied. The swarm had hesitated after witnessing the power of the Unity weapon, but they quickly adapted. Their ships spread out, making themselves harder to target with area effect weapons. They came at the fleet from every direction, trying to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. The Unity protocol allowed the Thunderbreaker fleet to respond with impossible coordination. They wove through the swarm's formations like dancers, their movements perfectly synchronized. Weapons fired in patterns that created killing zones where swarm ships couldn't survive. Shields overlapped, each ship protecting the others at exactly the right moments. For 15 minutes they held the line. The space between Mars and Earth became a graveyard of destroyed ships. But the swarm kept coming. They had numbers that the fleet couldn't match. Slowly, inevitably, they were being pushed back toward Earth. "We need to use the Unity weapon again," Amy Rodriguez said through the link. "It'll kill us," another commander protested. Ryan couldn't tell who. In the Unity protocol, individual voices blended together. "We're already dead if we don't," Amy replied. "Earth needs us to hold." Ryan made the decision. Fire. The 10 ships converged their power again, creating another gravitational anomaly. This time, they aimed for the center of the swarm's formation, where the largest concentration of command ships was gathered. The weapon tore through space, destroying everything in its path. 2,000 ships gone in an instant. The neural feedback was worse this time. Ryan felt blood running from his nose. Around him on the bridge, crew members were crying out in pain, affected by the backlash from his neural connection. One of the commanders in the Unity protocol went silent, their mind unable to handle the strain. "The windbreaker is offline," Sophie reported, her voice tight with concern. "Life signs are faint. They're out of the fight. 9 ships now, against 7,000 remaining swarm vessels." And Ryan could feel the Unity protocol starting to fail. The commanders' minds were too damaged to maintain the connection much longer. One more use of the weapon might kill them all. But then Dr. Kate Sullivan's voice came through the communication channel from Mars. Ryan, I found something in the predecessor records. The swarm isn't just ships. It's a consciousness spread across all of them. But there's a core, a nexus ship that coordinates everything. If you destroy it, the entire swarm will collapse into chaos. Where? Ryan demanded. Scanning now, Kate replied. It's huge, easily 5 times the size of the Thunderbreaker, and it's hanging back, protected by layers of smaller ships. It's been coordinating the swarm's tactics from a distance. Ryan saw it through the combined sensors of 9 ships. The nexus was a massive organic structure, pulsing with red light. It looked like a diseased heart beating in the darkness of space. And Kate was right. It was surrounded by at least 1,000 escort vessels. We can't reach it, Lisa said. Not with the swarm between us and the target. Ryan felt an idea forming, but it was terrible. Yes, we can. But we need a distraction. Something that will draw the swarm away from the nexus long enough for one ship to get through. What kind of distraction? Amy asked. The biggest one possible, Ryan replied. 8 ships using the Unity weapon at full power, targeting the swarm's main formation. It'll kill everyone involved, but it'll create an opening. Silence filled the Unity protocol. The commanders understood what he was suggesting. A suicide attack. No, Sophie said on the Thunderbreaker's bridge. She had been listening to the plan through Ryan's neural link. There has to be another way. There isn't, Lisa said quietly. Ryan's right. This is the only way to win. But he's wrong about one thing. It won't be 8 ships. It'll be 7. The Thunderbreaker is going after the Nexus. Lisa, no, Ryan protested. I should be the one. You're the flagship commander, Lisa interrupted. You have the strongest neural link to the Sentinel protocol. The Thunderbreaker has the best chance of surviving long enough to destroy the Nexus. I'm taking the Stormbreaker in with the others. It's already decided. Ryan wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. The Thunderbreaker was the most powerful ship in the fleet. If anyone could punch through to the Nexus, it was him. I'm uploading a virus to you. Kate's voice came through again. Something my team developed from studying the predecessor records. The swarm absorbs the minds of the species it conquers, right? This virus is based on human cognitive patterns. Things like hope, individuality, sacrifice. Concepts that the swarm can't process. If you can inject it into the Nexus, it might tear the swarm apart from the inside. Ryan felt the data packet arrive in the Thunderbreaker's systems, a weapon made of human thought patterns. It was insane. It was desperate. It might actually work. All ships break Unity protocol, Ryan commanded. Lisa, take command of the suicide squadron. I'll go for the Nexus. The neural link dissolved and Ryan was suddenly alone in his own head again. The silence was deafening after being connected to so many minds. But there was no time to adjust. The battle was still raging around them. Sophie, plot me a course through the swarm to the Nexus, Ryan ordered. Fastest route possible. That's going to take us right through the heart of their formation, Sophie protested. We'll never make it. We will, Ryan said with certainty he didn't feel. Because Lisa and the others are going to give us a chance. Lisa's voice came through the communication system one last time. Ryan, when this is over, tell my family I was thinking of them. Tell them Earth is safe because of what we did here. Lisa, Ryan started to say, but she cut him off. No goodbyes, she said firmly. Just win. That's an order. 7 ships broke away from the formation, accelerating toward the thickest concentration of swarm vessels. The Stormbreaker led them. Lisa Grant's piloting skills on full display even now. They reformed the Unity protocol without Ryan. 7 minds linking together for the last time. The Thunderbreaker turned and burned toward the Nexus. Sophie had plotted a crazy course that took them skimming along the edge of the swarm formation, but Ryan trusted her judgment. His crew worked with desperate efficiency, routing power to shields and engines, preparing for the run of their lives. Unity weapon charging, Lisa's voice reported, firing in 10 seconds. Ryan watched through his rear sensors as the 7 ships came together, their combined power building to a level that made the previous shots look small. They were putting everything they had into this one strike.